Hoichi the Earless.
Where are you taking me?
Emperor Antoku, who was only 8 years old, asked his grandmother on a swing ship. The ship was surrounded by the loud noise of warfare. His grandmother answered, weeping.
We are going to a paradise. There is another heaven under the sea too.
The grandmother held the emperor tightly in her arms and threw herself into the waves. In 1185 at Dan-no-ura, in the Straits of Shimonoseki, the long contest between the Taira clan and the Minamoto clan ended. The Taira people, who had reached the height of their prosperity, perished utterly, with their women and children, and the infant emperor. That sea and shore had been haunted for hundreds of years. On dark nights, thousands of ghostly fires hovered around the beach or flitted above the waves. They would try to sink ships passing in the night. People built a Buddhist temple and Buddhist services were regularly performed there. There lived close to the temple a blind man named Hōichi, who had an outstanding talent for recitation and playing upon the biwa, Japanese lute. He became famous as a professional biwa player, and it was said that when he sang the song of the Battle of Dan-no-ura, even the goblins could not refrain from tears. The chief priest of the temple loved his praying and called him very often. Eventually, he gave Hōichi a room in the temple and allowed him to live there. One summer night, the priest was out and Hōichi was alone in the temple. It was a hot night, and the blind man was on the veranda to cool himself. Midnight passed, and the priest had not returned. Hōichi heard footsteps approaching from the back gate. But it was not the priest. The sound seems to suggest that the person was free-armed. A samurai crossing the garden, and halted directly in front of him. A deep voice spoke the blind man's name.
Hōichi.
Hōichi was too startled and couldn't react. The voice spoke again.
Hōichi.
Yes,
answered Hōichi, managing to open his mouth.
I am blind, so I cannot know who calls.
Then the voice said,
I am stopping near this temple. My lord is also staying there. He wishes to hear your performance, so you will take your biwa and come with me.
In those times, the order of a samurai was unrefusable to people of lower status. Hōichi took his biwa and went out with the samurai. The hand that guided him was very cold. Hōichi thought that they might be going to the noble's mansion, and the noble would give him a lot of money. Before long, the stranger stopped and yelled,
Open the gate!
There was a sound of heavy gates moving.
I have brought Hōichi,
said the samurai. Hōichi heard the sound of screens sliding, rain doors opening, and the voices of women chatting. This time, a woman's hand guided him to a room with a matted floor. There he could hear that many noble people were assembled. The woman who had guided him said,
Hoichi, our Lord ordered that the history of the Taira be recited.
Hōichi was confused since the story of the Taira was too long to recite in one night. Then the woman added,
Please recite the story of the battle at Dan-nora, for the pity of it is the deepest.
Then Hōichi nodded and started playing his biwa. During the performance, he could hear that all the people surrounding him were sobbing and wailing. The performance finished. The woman's voice said,
Our Lord has been pleased to say that He intends to bestow upon you a fitting reward. You shall perform before Him once every night for the next 6 nights. Tomorrow night, therefore, you will come here at the same hour. You are now free to go back to your temple.
The same samurai who had guided him was waiting to take him home. He led him to the veranda at the rear of the temple, and there bade him farewell. It was almost dawn. Hōichi said nothing about his strange adventure, because the woman had asked him not to talk to anyone. From that night onward, every night the samurai came without fail, and guided Hōichi to the same mansion, where Hōichi performed and was equally successful. One day, the priest found him returning at dawn. He summoned Hōichi, who said nothing. The priest was worried about him, and one night followed him. Hōichi was walking along, but his footsteps were fast, without faltering, as if someone was guiding him. Soon after, he arrived at the cemetery where the Taira people and Emperor Antoku were buried. Hōichi sat in front of the tomb of the infant emperor and started his performance. The priest saw many ghostly pale fires appear and start swaying around him. At dawn, Hōichi returned and tried to sneak into his room, but the priest stopped him and said,
Hōichi, my poor friend, you are bewitched. The people for whom you were performing are ghosts. If you continue it to the end, they will destroy you. You are now in great danger.
Hōichi was afraid and shaken up. "Priest, please help me," begged Hōichi. The priest said,
Tonight, unfortunately, I have to go away to perform another service. Before I go, I will write holy texts on your body to protect you from the vengeful Taira ghosts.
Before sundown, the priest wrote the holy text on Hōichi's head, face, neck, limbs, hands, feet, and even upon the soles of his feet. When this had been done, the priest instructed Hōichi, saying,
Tonight, please don't speak out nor move, whatever may happen. Don't get frightened.
If you do exactly as I tell you, the danger will pass by the dawn. After dark, the priest went away. Hōichi seated himself in Zen meditation position in the veranda and was breathing silently, taking care not to cough or make any noise for hours. Around midnight, he heard the steps of the samurai approaching. It passed the gate, crossed the garden, and stopped directly in front of him.
Hoichi,
called the deep voice. Hōichi didn't reply, sitting motionlessly.
Hoichi, Hoichi, where are you?
Called the voice a second time. Hōichi remained still. There was a noise of heavy feet walking around to find him. At last, the voice muttered close to him.
Huh? There are 2 years here in the air. I see. Hoichi has closed his mouth. Then he has no way to reply. Well then, I will take these ears and show them to my lord as proof that I obey the command.
At that instant, both Hōichi's ears were torn off. Before sunrise, the priest came back. He hastened to the veranda and stepped upon something clammy. He saw, by the light of his paper lantern, the blood covering the veranda. Hōichi was still sitting there, with the blood trickling from his wounds.
My poor Hōichi!
cried the priest.
All my fault! I wrote the holy text upon your body, except upon your ears. I will call my doctor to come as soon as possible. Anyway, Hōichi, you've survived. The danger is now well over. You will never again be troubled by the Tara ghost.
With the aid of the good doctor, Hōichi soon recovered from his injuries. The story of his strange adventures spread widely and made him famous. Many noble and rich people went to hear him recite. Eventually, he became known as Hoichi the Earless.